Hello there, thank you for joining me for today's practice. Today is a prenatal yoga sequence for strengthening and lengthening the pelvic floor. So you'll need a few props just to help you through today's sequence. If you're in your earlier parts of your pregnancy, so your first trimester or the first part of the second trimester, you might not need to be as elevated as I've kind of set up here behind me. I'll explain what I've done, and you can use cushions or pillows, anything that you've got kind of around, just to make yourself feel as comfortable as you can. If you're in your kind of second half of the second trimester or into your third trimester, I definitely want you to try to elevate yourself a little bit so you get a bit more of that diagonal angle when we lie back into our Supta Baddha Konasana or reclined butterfly position. And so I'm just going to explain what I've done here. I've placed a blanket underneath just to make ourselves nice and comfy, and I've set up 2 blocks underneath the bolster, and then I've laid the bolster down, and then I've just got another little folded up blanket. You could use a cushion or something like that, or another little blanket. And so just take your time and set yourself up so you can feel comfortable when you lie back, and yeah, you could even test it out. So take your time, set yourself up. Once you're done, come into a seated position. We're just going to take a little moment in our seat before we lie back. I want to talk through the pelvic floor before we lie back into our Baddha Konasana. So you could have your, whichever leg in front is fine. You could cross your legs over if that feels comfortable. Just place the hands under the thighs, closing down the eyes. Bringing the attention to your breathing. Just picturing the length of the entire spinal column. And allowing the face to be soft and the shoulders soft. And start to feel into the base of your seat, in particular thinking about your pelvic floor, the base of the pelvis. And the pelvic floor muscles, they're sort of in this interlacing webbed type hammock shape that sits underneath the pelvis and protects the pelvic organs. And feel into those 2 little bony parts on either side of the right and left hip, or right and left side of the pelvis. Those are the 2 sit bones. And then think about the front of your pelvis, the right at the bottom, the pubic bone. There's a little bony bit at the front of your pelvis, and then behind the pelvis there's a tailbone. So the pelvic floor attaches to the front of the pubic bone, the tailbone, and across to either sit bones, and creates a hammock-like muscle. And so when we lay back and I start to talk about the pelvic floor, I'm going to talk about the 2 sit bones drawing in together, and then the pubic bone and the tailbone coming together. Another image you might like to use, or I'll mention, is the 2 elevated doors that are coming in, closing in together. So that's more for the 2 sit bones coming towards one another. And let's open the eyes so we can lay ourselves back. Just placing your hands down, make sure you've got a little bit of space away from the bolster or your cushions, and then feet flat onto the mat, and then let's lie back. Feet flat on the mat to begin with. Lift the hips up, lengthen the tailbone away from the lower back and lay it back down, just so we're not, overarching that lower spine. Let the arms relax down. And if you feel comfortable to do so, let's just take the knees out wide. We'll just hold this for a few moments, and then we're going to come back to feet flat on the mat, unless you feel super comfortable in this position, and you can stay here for as long as feels right for you. So allowing the eyes to close completely. allowing the body to soften into your cushions, your bolster, and the ground underneath you. Just feeling supported. And gently starting to follow the breathing in and out through the nose. And just taking this time just to check in with how you're feeling. Just allowing whatever is present to be here. And then you could either choose to stay in your Supta Baddha Konasana, or alternatively, let's bring the knees back up towards the ceiling and then open the feet out as wide as you need to, and try to keep the feet parallel so the feet are just gently grounding down into the mat. And then come back to the breath. Start to lengthen out the breathing a little bit, so slowing down the inhale and slowing down the exhale. And then again, slowing down the inhale and the exhale. Now let's take an inhale together. As you exhale, think about the two sit bones either side of the pelvis, right and left. As you exhale, drawing those two sides together into the center without clenching the tummy muscles. And then as you inhale, relax the pelvic floor completely. And then as you exhale, drawing those two sides of the sit bones together, or imagine those two elevator doors closing. And then inhale to release. And then again, exhaling, drawing the sit bones together. And then inhale to release. We're going to do that once again. As you exhale, drawing those two sit bones together. Try to hold it here. Allow the breath to just keep moving freely. So think about this being level 1. If you can, bring it up to level 2 so you're drawing it up and in towards the navel. Just keep the breath easy. One more full breath. And then as you exhale, let's just release all the way. Just take a few moments, just focusing on your breath. Let the pelvic floor be completely relaxed. And now bring the attention to the pubic bone, so the point of the pubic bone, and your tailbone, imagining right at the end of your spine there. Taking an inhale. As you exhale, think about those 2 points coming towards one another. So pubic bone and tailbone drawing in. And then as you inhale, completely relax. And then as you exhale, once again, pubic bone and tailbone drawing together. And then inhale to release. One more time, exhaling, drawing the pubic bone and tailbone together. And then let's hold it here, but then keep the breathing going. Just allow it to be easy. If you can, bring it up to level 2. So thinking about that beginning point being level 1. So you're just drawing the pelvic floor in and up. There's 2 more full breaths. Keep the face relaxed. And then on your next exhale, just releasing and just taking a few deep, full breaths. Just to rest, allow the pelvic floor to be soft. And now for the next stage, what we're going to do is bring all of those 4 points together. So the 2 sitting bones drawing in, the pubic bone and the tailbone drawing in together, all in towards the center. It's taking a inhale. As you exhale, drawing all those 4 points together, drawing it in. And then inhale to release. And then exhaling, once again, 4 points, drawing together. And then inhale to release. Being mindful of any other sort of unnecessary clenching that starts to happen in the body. Exhale, drawing the 4 points together. And this time, let's hold that very slight contraction there without clenching the toe muscles. Keep the breathing easy. And thinking about this being level 1. And if you can, just trying to draw it up to level 2 and holding it here. Just for 3 full breaths. And then when you're ready, just releasing completely, allowing the breath to just return to its natural rhythm. Just for a moment. And we're going to do that 2 more times. So taking an inhale. As you exhale, draw the 4 points together. 2 sit bones, pubic bone, tailbone, drawing it in. You add level 1, and if you'd like to, if you can, lifting it slightly up to level 2. Holding it here, keeping the breath open. On your next in-breath, just releasing completely. And exhale, soften. Let's just take a moment here. We'll do that 1 more time, but just allowing everything to be relaxed for another breath. And then on the next inhale, stay. As you exhale, drawing the 4 points together, sit bones, pubic bone, tailbone, drawing it in towards the center and thinking level 1. If you can, lifting it up to level 2. Easy breath, 3 full breaths. On your next in-breath, let's just release completely. Just letting everything go for a moment. A couple of deep breaths. And then if your knees are still out in your Supta Baddha Konasana, then gently bring the knees up towards the ceiling, feet flat on the mat. Gently opening up your eyes. And then starting to roll over to the left-hand side. So you want to use your left forearm, just letting yourself come over to that left leg so you can come up nice and slowly up to a seated position. And then we're going to start to move all our bits and pieces off the mat. So keeping your bolster or your cushions nearby just for our Shavasana later on. Keep your 2 blocks. I want you to set up your blocks so they're just nice and accessible. We're going to use them really shortly. And then come into your child's pose position. So big toes together, knees nice and wide. And depending on what stage of pregnancy you're at, you might stay upright, just keep it here, focus on your breathing. If you can, you might reach a little bit further away to see where you get to. Placing the palms of the hands down, thinking about those sitting bones reaching back. And when I think about relaxing the pelvic floor, those 2 sitting bones moving apart from one another here. Armpits wrapping in slightly to face one another. Back of the neck long. And if you wanted to take a more relaxed variation, you could
pop your head onto a block or onto your two hands. And then make your way into your tabletop position, setting up those wrists just underneath the shoulders or slightly forward, knees underneath the hips, and then taking a cat-cows, releasing the belly down, draw the shoulders away from the ears, take an inhale, and then as you exhale, tucking the toes under, seco through the spine and just shift the hips slightly back, so you're just rocking back a little bit, and then taking an inhale, tops of feet down, sternum reaching forward, eyes lifting up, and then exhale, tuck the toes under, C-curve through the spine, rocking back a little bit, and then again, tops the feet down, inhaling, and then exhaling, rocking back, pressing the middle and the lower part of the spine up towards the ceiling, and then let's release back to center, tops the feet down for a moment, and then tuck the toes under again, and we're coming up into our down facing dog, lifting the hips up. So you still want to keep your feet parallel, take your time, but make sure you give yourself plenty of space. Just see how much space you need, just so your belly feels comfortable. Back of the neck is relaxed. Pressing down through the knuckles of the middle finger. Thinking about lengthening out through both sides of the waist. Steady gaze with the eyes. Just one more breath here. Shifting the weight slightly forward, look towards your hands. Bring this right hand towards the middle so it's closer to the left hand. We're going to step our right foot to the outside of the right hand. So stepping that foot, we're coming into a lunge position. And then just setting yourself up, just holding it here for a couple of breaths. Tips the shoulders away from the ears. Pressing the back of that left thigh up towards the ceiling. We won't hold this one for too long. And then starting to just lift the hips up a little bit so you can start to walk your hands around towards the center of the mat. Walk your feet so they're in line with one another. Hands underneath the shoulders. And then have your blocks, bring them underneath your hands. Feet are parallel. You can keep a soft bend through the knees if you need to. We're going to take an inhale to lengthen out through the spine, trying to lift the sitting bones up towards the ceiling. So you're trying to increase the arch in your lower back. Crown of the head reaching forward, sternum reaching forward. Engage the quadriceps. And you want to make sure you're not hanging in the backs of your knees, so your bottom's not beyond your heel line. It's in line with your heels as much as you can. Taking one more full breath. Inhale. Just staying for the exhale. We're going to start to come a little bit further down if you can. So you might want to hold onto your blocks. If you don't need your blocks, then maybe just pop them off to the side. And starting to fold forward. Letting the back of the neck relax if you can. And if it's available, maybe walking your hands a little bit further back. Shoulders lifting away from the ears. And then walking your hands back out again. Take an inhale. And then as you exhale, let's start to walk the hands around towards the left foot now. So we're going to come into our lunge on the other side. And you want to step that right foot a little bit further out to the right. Try to press the back of the right thigh up towards the ceiling. Tips the shoulders away from the ears. Reaching that right heel back as the sternum reaches forward. Just taking one more in-breath. As you exhale, you can step back to your down dog or tabletop. If you need to just come down to the ground, feel free to do that. If you can, we're taking our down facing dog once again. And if you're ready for your child's pose, feel free to take child's pose. And then let's all come back down to our child's pose. Open the knees out wide, big toes together, sitting back towards the heels. And either you can keep your arms extended or maybe stacking one hand on top of the other. Resting the forehead down. Just allowing the whole body to soften. And then starting to walk your hands back up. Bring that left knee over towards the right and we just sit over to one side, and then let's take the legs out long. Now we're going to be coming into a variation, a seated variation called Shavasana. If you do want to sit up on a cushion or a blanket, please feel free to sit up just to give yourself a little bit more height. And if you feel comfortable to do so, let's just have both legs long, hands by your side, lifting up through the lower back. Just taking a moment here. And then we're going to bring this right heel in towards the right side of the groin. Press down through the back of that left leg, both sitting bones grounding down. Left hand in front, right hand behind you, taking an inhale. As you exhale, let's take a turn towards the right without lifting this left hip up. Left hip keeps dropping down. Left sitting bone dropping down. Just taking one more inhale. Stay for the exhale. If there's any more space to just turn the upper body. And then bring the torso slightly back, not all the way, because we're going to come down onto our side. So we're using that left hand, sliding it down that left leg. And if your heel's really close to your belly, make sure you give yourself a bit of space. So you're taking it away. You don't want that pressure on your belly. And then take that right arm up and over, shoulders away from the ears, pressing down for that right sitting bone. Just feeling free to close the eyes, just feel into any body sensations here. And then taking an inhale, coming back upright, and then we'll swap it around. So extend that right leg away. Try to be on both sitting bones for a moment, shoulders away from the ears, and then we'll swap it around. So we're going to bring this left heel in towards the left side of the groin, dropping both sitting bones down, right hand in front, and then take the left hand behind. Take an inhale. As you exhale, turning the upper body to the left. That's that right sitting bone, just relaxing down. Taking one more inhale. Stay for the exhale. See if there's any more space to turn through the upper body. And so returning the torso slightly towards the center, and then taking that right hand, sliding it down the right leg, and left arm up and over. Pressing down through that left sitting bone. And shoulders relaxing away from the ears.
And on the next in-breath, let's come all the way back up. Taking that left leg to come forward. You could stay facing this way. I'm just going to turn around to face you. We're going to take the legs out to the side. So coming into our Upavishta Konasana. Once again, this is a lovely position to be sitting up a little bit higher on a cushion or a blanket. So if you make yourself feel comfortable. Let's flex the feet so the toes are pointing up towards the ceiling. Hands behind you, lifting up out of the lower back. Just taking a few breaths in this upright position. And then if it feels available, bringing the hands forward and then starting to bring the hands down to where you can. And this is somewhere where you could use your block. You could have your hands on the block, or if it's available, it's okay on your belly. You could come down to your forearms. You might not even need a block. You could come down onto the ground. So we're gently pressing down through the backs of the thighs. And you might like to take your attention just back to those two bony bits of the pelvis, the sit bones. Having a sense of those widening away from one another. Face is soft, jaw released. Two more full breaths. And then starting to make your way back upright. Hands underneath your legs. Just bringing the legs together for a moment, just lengthening up. And we're going to set ourselves up for our Shavasana now. So we want to be lying on our left side for our Shavasana. Unless you're in your earlier parts of your pregnancy and you still feel comfortable to lie down on your back, you could feel free to lie down on your back. But once you're in your second trimester, we just encourage you to just lie on your left side. It's recommended just because of one of the main arteries that is on your right side, that runs along the right side of the body. And so when you're lying on your left, it just encourages as much oxygen and the circulation in the body to just happen freely. I've got my bolster. You could have cushions that you lay out in front of you. So I'm just going to lie down on the left side of the body. Have your little cushion or pillow. Placing that right thigh on top. Just take some time to make yourself feel comfortable. Some people like to just have like a block or a cushion in between their legs, so you might just have them together, but with something in between. And when you're ready, closing down the eyes. Just allowing everything to slow down. Keeping that very light attention on your breathing. As you exhale, just feeling the body surrender and soften. Just allow yourself to rest here. Please feel free to stay here, resting for as long as you need to. And thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Namaste.